Well, this here is the new Skoda Kushaq, and the word Kushaq basically means emperor in Sanskrit or the king in Sanskrit. And this car wants to be the king of the mid-size SUV segment, the best car in its segment. But it's difficult to take on the likes of the Hyundai Creta and the Kia Seltos. The Creta really is the Badshah at the moment of sales in this segment. Really is the best seller and has been the best seller for the last 6 years. So can this new kid on the block really take on the big king in the segment? We'll find the answer to that question by the end of this review, and in that time tell you about the interiors, the features, the driving bits, as well about the space that the Kushaq has to offer. My name is Ashish Masih, and this of course is Autoportal, and let's get started with this video. But before that, if you've come to this channel for the first time, please do subscribe to it. Budmo, as you might be aware by now, is the online expert in terms of spare parts. If you want a spare part for your vehicle, they have it in their list. They have the most extensive spare parts catalog, right from the most affordable small car to the top of the line luxury car, you name the car, and they have the spare parts for it. And the best point is that they have the spare parts from a host of different component makers and different price segments for the same spare part. So if you want to buy a cheaper part from a different maker or a more expensive part from a different component maker, they have the option for you. Well, so I'm inside the cabin now of the Skoda Kushaq. The first thing you'll truly appreciate about this car is this. Let me just turn off the ignition and do that once again. Wow, that's a very solid, very reassuring and very confidence-inspiring thud noise from the doors. Now, in terms of the equipment, even the lower end version of this car come very well equipped. You get all the basics. You also get a touchscreen as well as a stereo system on the lower end version, the base version of the car. So for some people who are saying that even the base version is expensive, don't believe it, because you get a lot of features even on the base version. What you like about the car, as I just said, is the overall solid build quality. You like the overall features list. You get tire pressure monitors, you get automatic headlamps, you get cruise control. You also get touch panel for the AC controls over here, couple of USB charging points, Type-C charging points, wireless charging for a mobile phone, and you also get Apple's CarPlay and Android Auto on this car, along with some apps which are already there, like the Ghana app, Booking.com, audiobooks, as well as the Singic app. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's what it says over here. And all these apps are available via Skoda's Play Store, via Skoda's own app store. So you can check it out on the app store, and you get a lot of other information as well. You get the current consumption, you get the time that you've traveled, average speed, as well as the total trip you've done. So a lot of other information is available over here. It's a nice touchscreen, absolutely no lag in it, nice to operate, easy to operate. Menus, sub-menus, everything is clearly marked, and a host of functions on the touchscreen which can be controlled. So really nice and easy to operate. The seats also are nice and comfortable. You get good bolstering. Side bolsters are very good, very nice and comfortable as well. Lanky legs will be comfortable on these seats. And of course, you also get front cooled seats, which is a very good feature on a hot and summer day like it is today. But there are some things which are missing also on this car. The first, of course, is you don't get a panoramic sunroof like you get on some other rivals. You only get this small sunroof. A lot of people these days want that panoramic sunroof, but Skoda thinks that it's better to invest in some other feature and more useful features rather than that. And the glove box also isn't very large. It's a very small glove box, which means that you can't really put in a lot of stuff into it. That said, the door pins are large enough, and you also get a nice place over here where you can keep those odds and ends. Overall though, what do I think of this car? Well, I think that the fit and finish is good, the build quality is quite good, the steering wheel is nice to grip, you get good features as well, but the look and feel isn't as flamboyant, isn't as fashionista like it is on the Hyundai Creta or even the Kia Seltos. So people who prefer a subdued look on a car will prefer this, but people who want that wow factor will definitely prefer the Hyundai Creta. Anyways, I'll give it a strong score of 8 out of 10. Let's jump in the back seat now and see how good that really is. Well, so I'm in the back seat now of the Skoda Kushaq, and as always I've adjusted the front seat for my height and my driving position, and my preference is 5'10". The seats have been raised up on the front, so you can stretch your legs over here quite nicely. Plenty of place below them to stretch your feet. That's a nice thing. Special attention detail has been given by Skoda. In the back pockets, you get a big pocket over here where you can keep a big file or maybe a small bottle. And if you have a cell phone and you want to hide it away from those kids in the back, you can always keep it over here. There's a special pocket to hide away those cell phones. At the moment, I can keep this bottle over here. No, it won't fit, but you can keep a cell phone over there, or maybe even a hand sanitizer, and it'll go in without any fuss whatsoever. So nice little details over there. You also get AC vents, which is now really the norm on all cars in this segment, and a couple of USB charging points, Type-C charging points, which means that the latest generation phones can be charged via these, which is a nice touch. The floor panel is almost completely flat. It's slightly raised, but not a big deal. But to be honest, this car is best used as a two-seater. People will prefer it as a two-seater and not a three-seater because it doesn't feel very wide at the back. And if you have three over here, it will become a little tight. So it's best to open up the armrest over here and just relax like this and sit and tell your driver to go on that long trip. The only other negative is that the backrest angle, as you can see, is slightly a little upright. It would have been better if it was a little laid back for a relaxing position, but no complaints because the seats themselves are quite comfortable. The hip and knee angle also is at a nice 90-degree. Plenty of support for your under thighs, and in general, it's a fantastic place to be in behind in the back seat of the Skoda Kushaq. So overall, I'll give it a good score of 8 out of 10. Well, so let's quickly talk about the boot of the Kushaq. Now, in terms of the overall luggage carrying capacity, some might say that on paper it's lesser than its main rivals, but that's quite okay because in terms of the utility and the actual utilization of the space, it is just as good as its main rivals. As you can see, it's a nice square boot, a deep boot, minimal loading sill, and also the edges have some place where you can keep some odds and ends. Over here right now there's a first aid kit which Skoda has put in, but you can utilize it for some other things as well. You also get these hooks over here in the corners which say 3 kilos on each one of them. So maybe if you're a fan of curries, then you can load up a curry bag over here or that takeaway from the restaurant and just put it here safely because 3 kilos is the limit. Or maybe you're going to Big Bazaar and buying some vegetables for the kids and the family. Overall, a respectable boot and a good score of 8.5 out of 10. Now let's quickly jump in the front seat, drive it around and tell you how good this car really is to drive. Well, so here I am driving the Skoda Kushaq now, and this car comes with two engine options. There's a 1 litre turbocharged petrol and there's another turbocharged petrol which is 1.5. There's no diesel on sale at the moment. And today we're driving the 1.5 petrol, which is the more powerful engine. Understandably, it produces 250 Nm of torque. And really, in terms of the overall refinement, it's a fantastic engine. Now, if Mumbaikar Nikhil was driving this car and he was testing it, he'd say that this is a chumma gadi, ek number gadi. That's how we would review it, because in terms of the driving bits, it really is, a little ahead of its main rival. It's ahead of the Creta and definitely ahead of the Seltos in terms of driving bits. Now, the steering wheel, even though it's very precise, very communicative, and even though it does offer you very good communication, it's not very heavy. It's a nice and light steering wheel. The gearbox, the manual gearbox, is also nice and light, and the clutch also has a nice and springy action to it. So in all these departments, it's a car which will not tire you out and will not make you feel tired at the end of a long journey. It'll keep you fresh. What you'll also appreciate about this car is the overall handling balance, because this car doesn't feel like an SUV, it doesn't feel like a heavy SUV, it just feels like a normal hatchback. In fact, it will remind you of the Polo. Yes, the VW Polo, it's part of the same group. It'll remind you of that car because the handling is so easy. It's a car you can drive on a daily basis and not feel tired. But what you'll also appreciate about this car is the overall ride comfort. Yes, the suspension setup of this car is slightly on the firmer side. It is slightly on the firmer side. But that said, you never feel uncomfortable on this car because it feels very rock solid, very reassuring when you're driving it on the highway. And within city limits also, it'll keep most of the badly passed roads at bay. It's really the worst of worst roads which might just filter in, one or two of them, not all of them, which might just filter in. But apart from that, it really is fantastic. Also, what's good about this car is when you push it into corners, there's minimal body roll, and really, it is a good car for keen drivers. It's a fantastic car, in fact, for keen drivers, not just a good car, it's a fantastic car for keen drivers. Visibility is excellent all across. The raised up seat ahead gives you a good view of the bonnet line, so you can see all ends of the bonnet. So it's a good car for people who are just driving their cars for the first time, who just bought their new cars. It's a good car for them also. And visibility from the back side view mirrors is also quite good. And here also is nice and decent. Now, in terms of the engine, it's a brilliant engine to use. The mid-range, especially once you cross 2000 RPM, all the way to its red level 6000 RPM, is spectacular. It just loves to be revved. It's a rev-happy engine. But that said, it's a quiet engine. Even when you rev it hard, it remains quiet. It's only very near its red line that you can hear it inside the cabin. And talking about quietness, the cabin also feels very quiet and very, very calming to be in, because there's hardly any tire noise, hardly any wind noise, hardly any kind of noises which enter the cabin and filter into it. So it makes for a nice experience, especially on a long journey. The 6-speed gearbox also means that the engine flexibility is greatly enhanced. If you're doing speeds in excess of 100 kph on the highway, the engine is spinning between 2,500 and 2,000 RPM, which makes the cabin also a nice and relaxing place to be in. So overall, what I'm trying to say is that if you're a keen driver, if you just buy your car for the sheer thrill of driving, if you are an enthusiastic driver, if you are someone who just enjoys going up the hills and pushing his car into corners, then this engine, chassis, gearbox, steering wheel dynamic really works very well on the Skoda Kushaq. It's one of the best in the business, if not the best. In fact, I will stretch out my neck and say that this is by far the best handling car and the best driver-focused car in the mid-size SUV segment. In fact, across segments up to 20 lakh rupees, this is the best handling SUV out there in the market, and definitely you should consider buying one if you just want a keen driver's car which is an SUV. It really is that good. As a product, I think that Skoda has delivered a decent package. It comes with good kit even on the base versions and decent amount of space inside the cabin. But as I just said, if you prefer the best car in terms of driving bits, this is the one to go for. Bye for now, and thanks for watching.